Good day, guys. Us today, and in this one today, we're going Android. What we're going to be doing is, we're going to be looking at the UGOOS, or the UGOOS UT4. Now this, again, is a little mini Android box. It's nothing to the extreme, and it's not exactly a pauper's box either. This is kind of middle ground for the Android operating system. So what I want to do is go into a lot of detail as to how this performs. What I don't want to do is go into a lot of detail of boring facts and figures and specifications. What I've done is I've put a link down in the description down below of a far more specification advanced video with lots of geeky facts and figures of all kinds of specifications that will make your eyes bleed. What I don't want to do is to focus too much on that. What I want to do in this video today is focus on whether this is a good media machine, whether this is a good gaming machine, and whether this is a good Android emulation machine. So with all that in mind, let's get stuck in. Right, so the UGOOS UT4. Before we get into the good stuff, I am going to have to get some basic specifications out of the way. So keep your ears closed. This is the boring bit, guys. Right, the CPU. This is running a Rockchip RK33 68 64-bit octa-core, and each one of those is running at 1.8 gigahertz. To be honest, in terms of CPUs, this is pretty much high-end. It's a pretty good, sturdy CPU to put in anybody's box, and for the price range, this quite dwarfs each and every other in that department, so hats off for that one. Right, it's installed with 2 gigabytes of RAM, which is also pretty beefy for an Android box, especially in this price range. And in terms of the GPU, we've got a PowerVR Roger G6110. Now this is its Achilles heel in my interpretation of it. This is what kind of lets it down, and to be honest, justifies the price range that it is in. It's a very good GPU, do not get me wrong. However, this is like 4-year-old technology now, and it does kind of, well, have an impact on its performance, and we'll talk about that as we get more in depth for the various different media scenarios that we're going to be using this with. It's also installed with Android 5.1 Lollipop, which to be honest is the baseline of all Android boxes. Anything less than that and you want to be raising your eyebrows and asking questions is pretty much top notch on that one. And as per normal, it's got Bluetooth 4.0 and Wi-Fi dual band, which is pretty damn good to be honest. The antenna picks up more or less everything that is expected within my house. Active cooling then, this is something which isn't normally incorporated into boxes, especially boxes of this price range. Now, you see this kind of stuff in the Nvidia Shield, the more high-end kind of the market, and what this does, it enables active cooling to, it means that the CPU doesn't have to throttle back when you start cooking this with high-end media, high-end games, and all that kind of good stuff. So it is a great addition. Now I pumped this puppy full of all kinds of emulators, all kinds of games, media, and all that jazz. And to be honest, I've pushed this temperature to the limit. And the fan does a pretty good job, and even when this is in full revs, you will not hear it, trust me guys, unless you've got your ear next to the actual box and you are actually listening to it with your TV on mute, you will not hear this box even when on full throttle. So hats off for the technical guys for actually incorporating that into the box and doing such a good job. Right, so now we've got the boring specifications out the way, now we can get stuck into how this actually performs with the stuff we're going to throw at it. Right, first off, media, and the most popular one that we're going to throw on this is Kodi. Kodi is awesome, and if you haven't got this installed on your system, then please take a look in the description down below. There's a link to my tutorial. It'll get you set up in no time. However, let's focus on the situation at hand and how this performs with Kodi. Well, it performs perfect. I'm not going to lie to you, this is snappy, it's top quality, intensive themes it laughs at. In terms of movies, TV, music, perfect across the board. There is no stutters, there is no downgrades, there is no nothing. It plays awesome. Now this plays awesome all the way to 1080p. Now, bear this in mind guys, this is a mid-range box. This has got limitations, and it finds its limitations once you start hitting the 4K side of the movies. Everything else I've thrown at it is perfect. When you start playing your 4K movies, if you stream from a site, again, perfect, no problem whatsoever. Normal rips that you can take from your normal 4K movies, again, it laps them up. However, I've got a collection of my classic movies, which are taken straight from the Blu-ray and taken without any compression, any alterations whatsoever. So the bitrate on these movies are nigh on perfect. The audio quality of these movies are perfect and as intended by the actual director. However, when I play these, it bottlenecks. You gotta bear this in mind, guys. These are pretty much high-end. These are top quality Blu-rays that I'm trying to put on here. No compression, nothing taken away. These are high-end. These are not the normal things that you'll be finding from your, I don't know, your normal collection, even your normal 4K collection. These are for pretty much big on audio buffs and avid collectors of movies. So your normal everyday guy isn't going to be hampered with this. You, as a normal user, just watching your movies in awesome 1080p quality, in most cases 4K quality, you will have no hindrance whatsoever. But if you are playing your movies in 4K, uncompressed, at the quality as intended, then you're going to have a player that justifies that kind of quality. This is a mid-range player, guys. This isn't going to be the be-all and end-all of everything. You're going to have to pay for that kind of quality. Right then, so in terms of the Kodi then, pretty much thumbs up. You know, this pretty much outperforms even most top-end Android boxes. It does have its limitations, but that's expected, especially for this price range. Gaming then, guys, let's start ramping this up and see what this puppy can do. And first off, Android gaming. Now, this is pretty much as expected. In fact, this performed and surpassed my expectations on this side of things. In terms of all Android games that I've thrown at this, from the most intensive 3D games to the normal Android as you would expect games, they are pretty much perfect. Asphalt 8, Buggy Heat, all the Angry Birds series, it laughs at them, as you would expect from Angry Birds. It's not exactly going to cripple your Android box, is it? It's just a 2D game. But for the 3D games, all perfect across the board. Now, you got to bear in mind, this is Android. These games are all pretty much developed to go on any mobile device, because that's where the market's at nowadays, especially in terms of your casual gaming. However, the actual intensive games that are quite limited on this operating system, it laughs at them. It really does play them without any hindrance whatsoever. And I think that mostly boils down to the CPU, and although limited, the GPU also. It's still pretty much powerful. It's just got its limitations. But you cannot see any of those limitations when it comes to the Android gaming side of things. So, with the Android things given the full thumbs up, let's actually have a look at the emulation. Right, this is where things start to crumble down a little bit. If you're just emulating 8-bit, 16-bit, it's perfect across the board. All your, I don't know, really retros from the 80s and 70s, of course, it would laugh at them. It all boils down to the emulator in that side of things. When you get to the 90s kind of stuff, again, 8-bit, 16-bit, perfect. You can even apply filters, overlays, and all that kind of good stuff, and it will play them without any problems whatsoever. I've had pretty much good performance across the board with these. 32-bit PlayStation, no problem whatsoever. However, you're not going to be starting applying high resolutions. You're not going to be starting applying textures, overlays, shaders, all that kind of stuff. That's when things are going to start to stutter, things are going to slow down, and you are going to find your limitations. So 32-bit, yep, no problem again, as long as you bear in mind the limitations that this has got. Dreamcast, I got this all the way up to Dreamcast and it had no problems again whatsoever. Of course, Dreamcast and Android is pretty much early days. Raycast is the only reliable source at that. And to be honest, I found more of the glitches to do with the emulator than the actual performance from the machine. So hats off to the machine for performing to that kind of stature. But as soon as you start pushing it further down the line, this is where it starts to crumble. And to be honest, again, it's as expected. This is the price range we're looking at, guys. PSP, I was trying on this. No way at all. You may find some games which are more 2D. However, in terms of all the 3D ones that are thrown at this, there's just too much stutters there, guys. You will not find a good gaming experience if you start emulating anything other than 32-bit and above. It's just too much for this GPU and CPU combination to handle. In terms of the everyday use of this and the actual operating system, it kind of surpasses that kind of performance that I was expecting. This is the mid-range Android box and it performs as a high-end box. This just laughs at it. And to be honest, for everyday stuff on Android, there's not much out there that can tax it. We've kind of seen its limitations. I've shown you where it does fall to its knees. But in terms of, I don't know, logging onto Facebook, in terms of browsing the web and things like that, as you probably may do on this kind of box, perfect. You know, you're more hampered by the actual programs and the compatibility of those programs rather than the performance of this box. Okay, to kind of wrap this up, and in summary then, first off, I need to be completely transparent. I was given this box. I was not paid to do any reviews, I was not paid to do any guides or anything like that. What I was given was this box. My thoughts and feelings in terms of the actual performance and what this box can do are completely my own. I'm not being paid to give anything positive. These are completely my own feelings, my own experiences, and what I have found from utilizing this box over the space of a week. I was simply given this so I could give you more tutorials given the Android operating system further down the line. So now we've got all that cleared up and I'm completely transparent, I can give you my final thoughts as to what this system is like. It's amazing. It is absolutely amazing. For this price range, it is absolutely outstanding. Of course, if you want the full cinematic experience with 4K, high bitrate, high fidelity, 31.1 surround sound with the full IMAX experience, you're gonna have to pay for it, guys. You know, it is as expected what you would get from this price range and the kind of schematics and specs you would find in this box. There is no surprises here. However, I would say for this price range, this is top end. This will play everything from a normal user throwing this at this. 1080p laughs at it. Even 3D stuff laughs at it. Games laughs at them all. Emulation, same as a PC. You're gonna have to go high end to kind of get the modern emulated systems. So that is it, guys. That is pretty much my thoughts on the system. So guys, if you want a bit of this modern technology, links are in the description down below to see and to purchase what I've just got. Well, that's been a pleasure bringing this to you today, guys. I've enjoyed my week with this box. It's been a nice Android experience all around. And to be honest, I've found some nice little tricks that I'll be showing you in the future. Please, as always, like, subscribe, do the things that people normally do and all this. Thanks to the guy who actually sent me this in the first place. It's been awesome actually getting amongst this. But most of all, guys, most of all, you have a good day. Laters!